And thank you all for hanging in there. It's been a great day with so much information, and it's been really exciting. So today, what I'm going to share with you is my topic is on workshops, and I just completed my AFC in December, and to gain experience hours, I developed a series of workshops that I presented to patrons in a local homeless shelter. It's also commonly called a place for unhoused people. Bear with me. I'm having an advancing the slide issue. Okay.
There you go.
I never do. Okay. Well, I get the hang of it. It just takes a minute. So we're going to begin with an interactive poll. And what we're going to try to use today is the annotate feature in Zoom. So you should be able to see on your Zoom screen you may have to hover over the screen, a toolbar. It might be at the bottom. In some cases, it's at the top. And if you can locate that toolbar, and what you're going to look for is the annotate, there's a little pencil. My screen shows a white pencil. Sometimes it's a green pencil. And
so
once you
mine's a little black circle in the bottom left-hand corner, for example, and it has a little green outline of a pencil. And so I click on that and it opens up the toolbar.
And then in the toolbar, what we're going to select is the stamp feature. It could look like a check mark or different things. Someone is drawing. Thank you. So once you go into that, yes. Okay, so we're going to just practice this tool because this is something we're going to be using throughout the workshop. If you can't locate it right away, you have plenty of time as we go through the slides to maneuver through Zoom and find out where you can locate those stamps. You guys are doing fantastic. Okay, so if Andy could clear the screen, we're going to practice I'm going to ask a question and have you respond. And we're going to be using the star and the heart icon for this response. So I know some people
it updated.
What's that?
The tool updated.
Updated?
Yeah, so it doesn't have the same toolbar.
Really? That's
yeah,
fine.
you might have to do it because you're the one sharing the screen. You might have to erase everybody's stuff.
Okay, I'm gonna erase you guys.
I don't see a star or a heart.
It's the stamp feature. It might look like in the toolbar.
The new one is a check mark.
Check mark. I see a check mark.
You erased and now everybody's stamping again.
It's okay. We're just going to go with it because it's going to be fun today. So, so this is the question I'm going to pose, and then you can respond with the appropriate answer. So I know some of us love giving presentations and love viewing presentations, and other people are more workshop style, love participating in them and viewing workshops more. So if you are a fan of presentations, if you could click the star to show that your preference is presentations. However, if your preference is workshops, if you could please find the heart and indicate the heart. There we go. All right. Hopefully, if maybe some of you haven't used this tool before, and it's really fun, and we can use this in a lot of ways for workshops that are presented online. So one of the reasons that I prefer workshops, and I see there's quite a few others that feel the same way, and a few that prefer presentations, which I totally understand that. So one of the reasons I prefer workshops is I don't really like to hear myself speaking the whole time. I prefer to have the interaction with others and hear everyone's comments. And also by using workshops, it helped me when I went into the shelter to build rapport with those clients. And it gave them a chance to kind of get to know me before we started scheduling individual financial counseling sessions. So I'm going to go ahead and clear this. You guys are so amazing. I love how beautiful this is, but I'm going to clear it. So we're going to hold off on the annotations for just a moment. Now, I know for some people, when you're using the annotations, sometimes it's a little bit difficult to find the chat button also. We might be going between chat and annotations throughout, just to give you a heads up. Okay. So audience analysis. When I was preparing to volunteer at the shelter, I didn't really know that much about the patrons that I was going to be preparing workshops for. So I did speak to the director, and I spoke to other people who had been volunteers in the shelter. And they were really helpful to give me kind of an idea of what to expect. But still, I didn't exactly know their individual education levels, their literacy level, if they had possible disabilities, or even their understanding of financial concepts. So I decided to incorporate the three learning styles. So I tailored the workshops to include visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. My real preference is doing workshops in person because I like that face-to-face interaction. But as we go throughout today, I'm going to show you the adaptations on how we can do both online with workshops and like through Zoom, and also in person. So with visual, I used visual aids, including charts and graphs on the board. This was in person, which we can also share visual easily through online. Auditory, I read aloud, and then I also asked participants to volunteer to read aloud. And I made sure that everything that was printed was also read. So if anyone had any type of visual impairment, that they could still have the auditory. And then also with visual, anything you're presenting visually, make sure it's very large print and very clear. So for kinetic, it was really fun to do hands-on, I had hands-on materials. So I had cards that had written information on it, images, cards that went along with games. I provided note cards and something for the participants to write for note-taking, drawing, or writing their goals or their action items. So it was very, tangible. So when presenting workshops virtually, information can be shared in a kinesthetic way, like we just demonstrated, where you can go in and push the stamps, and there's reactions, and there's a lot of different ways you can incorporate that aspect of it. So interactive teaching methods. So when I went into the shelter, I incorporated games into each of the workshops to introduce financial concepts. So today I'm going to share some of those games with you, and you're definitely encouraged to participate by sharing your responses in the chat for some of the games, and other times we'll be using the stamp feature like we talked about. So the first game is called word association. And for the word association game, so the way it works is a word in this setting, a word will appear on the screen. So the word will appear, and I'll read the word to you. So I want you to then, when you see the word or hear the word, think of the first phrase, short phrase or word that comes to your mind when you see that word. So what we're going to do is have you, what I'd like you to do is type your answer in the chat. So we're going to get started. And on the next slide, you are going to see the first fun word. But I'm going to take just a moment here and clear up whatever's happening here. I see a few things. One drawback with annotations, whenever you use annotations and you go to your next slide, they don't clear unless you go in and manually clear them. And so they might be blocking your material later. So that's just one thing to keep in mind when you use that tool. It's super fun, but you have to learn the quirks of it. So the first word is credit. So if you could type in the chat, when you hear the word credit, what immediately comes to your mind? Oh my goodness.
Lots of good ones.
High interest, credit score, responsibility, freedom, debt, options, debt, revolving. Okay. Unnecessary weight. That's a good one too.
I put high
So
interest.
high interest. Yes. So we're going to go on and move to the next slide. So the next word is income. First thing that pops into your head when you think income. Money, 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 work, woohoo, freedom, cash, security, shovel, paycheck, rich, make it rain. Yeah, there you go. Flexibility doesn't last long enough. Unlimited possibilities. I love it. Great answers. So as you're working with someone with a group in a workshop, this is a really great starter to get everybody warmed up and comfortable with speaking and participating. The next word is overdraft. This one always gets some interesting responses. Pain, bad, expensive, cost, fees, mistake, trouble,
Ouch.
necessary, bad, evil, NSF. Not good. No. Overdraft, no. I like that. Yes, that's definitely something that we always want to avoid and help our clients to avoid. Okay, we have a couple more words, and the next one is investment. So maybe this brings some more positive thoughts to mind. Investment.
I saw lots of future growth.
Stability,
Retirement.
income,
Planning.
stream of income. Opportunities. Riches with risk, growth, income flow. Complex. It can be very complex. Okay, I think I have.
That's good.
One more word. So the next one is, oh, another thing to keep in mind before I go to the, I think I only have one more word. Yes. Before I go to the final word, one thing to keep in mind is sometimes when you go into a group and you don't really know their level of financial literacy, you might need to define the word or ask, say, I'm going to put a word on the screen. Do you know what this means? Or maybe just offer a brief definition, because sometimes you're going to be in a setting where they don't know the definition of the word, and you'll notice whenever your responses seem way off. And you'll think, wait a minute, we need to stop and define this word. It also really helps you when you see the responses to know what direction you're going to go with that class, where they are with their literacy level. The last one is taxes. I always think April 15th. Pay too much, expensive, sucks, avoid, Uncle Sam, boo, theft, overly complicated. Don't forget, Vita, that's a good one. One of the two things guaranteed in life. Love it. So I appreciate you participating in that. So this is the last slide on the section that for word association, but I want to show you one more thing. So this is a photo of the I had a magnetic dry erase board. This is how, these are the terms that I used when I had the workshop. And this is after I had turned the cards over. So on the opposite side of each card is a number between 1 and 14, because I had 14 terms. So the participants would choose a number and say they chose number 1. And when they did, I would flip, number 1 credit card is at the top left corner. So we're going to call that number 1. So they say number 1, they'd flip it over, read it, credit card, and then they would start their responses. So this is just to kind of show you what it looked like presenting it in person. And it was really fun. So we've talked about the word association game. The next game I'd like to introduce is the bean game. And the bean game is used to teach budgeting with your clients. So the bean game, I'm going to go ahead and explain. So in the bean game, participants are divided into family groups. And when this is played in person, each family group, so it could be a pairing of 2 people or a larger group, pair them into groups, family groups. Each group is given a stack of cards. And on those cards, I'm going to show you what it looked like. So this is a photo of the cards laid out on the table that I used in the class. So we have different, we have, various topics that represent, household expenses. There were more cards than this. This is just to give you, so we have savings, housing, recreation, gifts, transportation, personal care, food, childcare. There are even more cards than this. So the participants would choose how much they would like to spend in each category by using dried beans that represent money. So like on the first example, savings, save in a piggy bank, you don't put any beans down for that. If you say 5% of your income, it's 1 bean. 10% of your income costs you 2 beans because the beans represent money, and save 10% would cost you 3 beans. So another fun idea is Andy has used this game before, and she loves using M&Ms in place of beans. So you'd probably be more popular with your class if you share M&Ms. So typically the participants would be given 20 beans to start with. And then they would discuss in their family group how they would use the 20 beans, which is their money, to cover all of their monthly expenses. So then so they'd lay them out on the cards, and you'd kind of see them discussing, and they would realize, oh no, I used all my 20 beans. What about utilities? Didn't pay utilities yet. So as they go through and discuss, it really gets them thinking about what a budget looks like, what our household expenses look like. And it's really fun to see the interaction with that. So then what I did next, so just to kind of to increase the difficulty somewhat of the game, so I asked them to remove 5 of the beans. So now they only have 15 beans. So they had to carefully decide what areas are going to cut their budget. Where am I going to take a bean from? I have to get rid of 5 of them because something happened. The furnace went out. I need 5 beans over here. So they would then they would have to discuss, what was their priorities in spending, what can they cut, what was the negotiate, what they can negotiate, what was the non-negotiable. So it was kind of interesting. I was observing as the participants in this shelter were placing the cards and placing the beans on the cards, and there was one couple that I overheard them discussing the game, and he was a smoker. And so he had put a bean on there. It's not showing on these cards, but he put a bean to represent it's a miscellaneous category, and cigarettes was on there. Cigarettes and alcohol were a miscellaneous category. So he was saying, oh, wow, well, you know what? I think I could cut back on cigarettes so we could afford a much nicer apartment. So we could put more beans down towards a better apartment instead of staying in the shelter or living with a friend. And so it just is really, really get people thinking and talking about compromise and what they're willing to do with their budgeting. Okay, so for an online version of the bean game, this again is how the categories of spending for your typical household expenses. So in this case, we're going to stay in one group today, but an option you could do is arrange breakout rooms according to family groups, and you could have people go into breakout rooms and work together. And then this is where we would again want to use we can pull up the annotate, and so you could go in here and for instance, if we look right smack in the middle at transportation, public transportation would only be 1 bean. So if I'm going to annotate and I'm going to use,
I put 2 there for you.
So you could do transportation would cost you 1, buy a used vehicle. So Andy bought a used vehicle, so she used 2, buy a new vehicle or vehicle paid for. So there's different categories that cost you different amounts. So then they can use the stamp feature and they only have 20. And then they would go through and place the stamps in the spending categories according to how much they want to spend on each level. So as you go through this, as you can see, each category, typically the cost will be between 0 to 3 beans, depending on the level of spending in that category that you feel comfortable doing. But you can also see how quickly you might run out of beans. And then again, we talked about in the last slide, you might run out and you also might have to move your beans around and take it from this category and move it over here to make ends meet. So you can find examples of the bean game through several of the university extensions. I know I went through Utah State and Missouri University Extension, and there was another one. So I was able to find different versions of this bean game. And then after finding those versions, I created one that worked best for my workshop. Some of
And then we took
games,
a lot of them and put them into this. We just decided,
compiled this. But as you go through it, some of the bean game's been around a long time. And so you might see things on there that some technology and things we don't use anymore. We don't usually have a home phone. I can't remember. There were some that were very laughable to me. And I was like, what? Oh yeah, that used to be a household expense that, and maybe it didn't have internet on some of the cards that were from the games that were produced older in older times, later, previous years. So that was really fun.
All right. I found the clear thing. You ready for me to clear?
Yes. Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay. We're going to,
I love it when Zoom updates.
And then I realized that, I can't advance my slides without getting rid of annotations. Can't leave them up. Okay. So we've talked about the word association game, the bean game. And the next game is called Take a Stand. And I used the Take a Stand game to teach about credit. So we're going to talk about some questions about credit. So for Take a Stand, when it's played in person, what I did was I had 2 signs that one read strongly agree and the other printed sign read strongly disagree. And I put them on opposite walls in a room. So participants would start by everyone stood in the middle of the room, and then a sentence is read aloud. And then they would have to choose, do I go to the wall that says disagree or the wall that says agree? Now, there was one rule that you could not stand exactly in the middle, precisely in the middle. You could be along the range. You didn't have to be stuck to the wall against strongly agree. You could be in the range, but just not exactly in the middle, because the point is to take a stand, right? So for online, this could also be used with annotations as well, stamping your responses. So if you all want to play along, I have 3 questions I'm going to read to you, and then you can stamp anywhere along the line besides the middle. You could be anywhere along the line what your thoughts are on the statement after it's read, whether you agree or disagree with the statement. So and we just these were kind of very simple statements, but it got people thinking about the topic. So this was about credit. So the first statement is credit is bad. Do you strongly agree or strongly disagree? Credit is bad.
Oh, I love how they're all over the place.
I know, it's really nice. Everyone picked the 6 different stamps, so it's fun to see it all. But I'm really seeing a trend towards strongly disagree.
And you can type in the chat if you weren't able to find the disagree or the annotate. That's fine.
Yes, the chat too.
We had a few people that had a hard time finding it. So,
and some people say that depends. And some people somewhat disagree, somewhat agree. So this is where your discussion with your class really gets started, because people will say, well, it depends. Credit's not always bad. It can be good. You want to purchase a house or whatever. So from that discussion, what will come out of that a lot is, as you discuss the topic, you'll see people move along the line. And they might have started out with very strongly disagree, but as the topic is discussed and they hear other perspectives, then it changes their thought. They think, oh, well, it could be good, it could be bad. So it's really good to get people thinking about different topics. So Andy, are you able to clear?
Yep. Gotcha.
Thank you. Okay, the next sentence is credit cards are necessary for renting a car or booking a hotel room. Credit cards are necessary for renting a car or booking a hotel room. And then we might say, well, how can you do it without a credit card? Does anyone have a response? How do you book a hotel room without a credit card?
Anybody want to come off mute?
What other options do we have? A debit card? Debit card.
Hard to deposit on a debit card.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Oh, high deposit fee on the debit card. Yeah, so that would be a drawback. Yep. So there's different opinions on that one. Okay, let's clear it and we'll go on to the last one.
Start talking. I got it.
The last statement is using credit causes bankruptcy. I think we all know the answer. Using credit causes bankruptcy. It doesn't necessarily, right? I think, but we've all seen that some clients that people we've worked with, they don't have a good handle on using credit. And for some, it can lead to bankruptcy, but that's not always, not always the case. All right.
All right. We are almost at the end of our time. So let's go. Good job.
Okay. I'm at the end. So some takeaways. So when giving the worksheets or when giving the workshops in person, I like to send them with something tangible, such as a budgeting workshop or worksheets to take home, something to take home. We did goal setting using SMART goals. And so they took home a note card with their goals on it, and lists of information and resources are another thing you can send as takeaways for in-person. You could also share those things if you do it online. So I also like to, at the end of the workshop, give a challenge to the participants and then follow up on their progress at the next workshop. So for example, one thing we did was goal setting and had them write a goal on their note card, ask them to share it with one person during the week that they felt was a support to them, and then make one small step, even if it was very small, towards accomplishing the goal that week. And then for follow-up the next week, asked if they shared their goal, if they changed their goal after sharing it or revised it in any way. And my last slide disappeared. So thank you all. I definitely do love workshops. I'm a fan of workshops. Presentations give me severe anxiety, just say that. But workshops, the reason why they're wonderful is because they encourage greater participation. They build rapport quickly, and they boost future interaction. To sum it all up, at the end of the workshops I presented, I passed around a sign-up sheet for to schedule individual counseling sessions in the future, and all of the participants signed up for future one-on-one individual financial counseling. So thank you all for being here.
It's all the love over there.
Oh, I love it. Beautiful. I hope you can use that tool. Super fun. Andy introduced me to it. Super fun. Thank you all. I'm going to stop sharing.